Missing manufacturer certificates of compliance. You have a DOT specification cargo tank, but you're missing the manufacturer certificate, and the manufacturer's out of business. You can't get a hold of it. What do? Well, as specified in 49 CFR Part 184.17 AE, you're allowed to make a duplicate certificate if the tank was manufactured prior to September 1st, 1995. Simply put a file of interpretation on 2018 18-0114. For a non-ASME tank, this is your low pressure, your petroleum distillate tank, built to ASME standards, manufactured prior to September 1st, 1995, 49 CFR allows the owner and the registered inspector to make a replacement certificate of compliance. This is a requirement for this. Both the owner and the registered inspector must verify and certify the tank meets all the specifications. So you'd have to have a copy of the regulation book. If it's a 300 306 cargo tank, you'd have to have the old copy of the old superseded regulations. If it's the 406, you'd have to have a copy of the current regulations and make sure this has the fuse bowl, the remote shutoff, the shear section, piping protection, all that required by specification. Verify that all the test inspections have been properly performed. And with this here on the first part, make sure you get a registered inspector that knows the regulation, because they're certifying this tank is perfect to all the standards, specifications when this tank was built. Verify the tests have been done, they're properly completed. Copy all this information to the nameplate of the cargo tank, or we call it spec plate sometimes. And both the RI, registered inspector, and the cargo tank owner must sign a certificate. This is an example of it. Take a good legible picture of the spec plate and print that on a Word document. Certify the owner of this cargo tank has certified that 306 meets specification cargo tank requirements in effect at the time of the manufacture, and all required test inspections have been performed and occurred. The owner's name and signature, date, registered inspector's name and signature, date, and CT number. And that's how you can reproduce a tank, a manufacturer certificate of compliance for a tank for which you don't have one. This is one company that they made an attempt at it, but they didn't put all the information on spec plate as the owner, but there's no registered inspector on it. Therefore, it didn't meet the requirements. So what if you have an ASME tank? Your 330, 331, manufactured prior to September 1st, 1995. Part 184.17 allows the owner and registered inspector to make a replacement certificate of compliance if the manufacturer is out of business. And here's the steps. Both the owner and the registered inspector must verify and certify the tank meets all specifications for that 330, 331 that's in effect at the time that the cargo tank was manufactured. So you have to get a copy of the old regulations as they have changed a lot on the 331s. Verify all test inspections have properly been performed. Copy all the information for the cargo tank nameplate on the duplicate certificate. And again, both the registered inspector and the cargo tank owner have to embed that photograph in here. And just this simple statement. Make sure you do have a registered inspector that knows how to go to 170, 337 and find the requirements for a 331 tank. Not all registered inspectors know the regulation book or what's required by specification. So kind of quiz them. Do you have a copy of the regulation for this book, this cargo tank here? Do you have part 177, 337? So you can look and see we got is the fuse bowl device installed? Is the shear section? Is the piping protection right? Is the remote shelves right? You're looking at all that for this tank. If you guys have a high pressure tank, and this is going to be mainly your LPG guys, you have to have it also, in addition to manufacturer's certificate of compliance, a ASME U1A cargo tank data report. This certificate is required for all DOT specifications, certified, marked ASME standards. They'll have a little plate on there. They'll have a clover leaf, have a letter U prior to 2013. After that, it has the letters ASME. That means it's certified to ASME standards. This report was issued by the manufacturer cargo tank, certifying the cargo tank was manufactured to ASME standards in effect at the time of the manufacture. The owner of the cargo tank is required to retain that manufacturer's ASME U1A data report on file for the life of the cargo tank and 1 year thereafter, same as the manufacturer birth certificate. This example, what one looks like, this doesn't know, ASME doesn't know what a 330, 331 is. So you're looking for the manufacturer, the serial number that matches the serial number in your tank, and it has SA517E. This is a point of copper tank. So this would be necessary if you had that tank welded on. The repair shop, the art cabinet, the board shop would want to copy this to tell them everything how this tank was made if you have to have it repaired. But it has to be maintained on file for the life of the tank. Well, if you have a missing U1A data report, for ASME cargo tanks manufactured prior to September 1st, 1995. That number is stuck with all tanks, September 1st, 1995. Several companies have made end runs with PHMSA to say, well, I got a tank built in 2000, and the company's out of business. What I do? It's now a non-spec tank. You're in violation. They have made allowance for it. Only prior to September 1st, 1995, allows the owner and a registered inspector to make a replacement U18. If the manufacturer's out of business, then first contact the National Board. Most reputable manufacturers filed that U18 with the National Board. And you can call the National Board, pay a small fee, and give them the serial number of the cargo tank, and they can look at the manufacturer's serial number, and they can find it. There's a couple of companies that are a little bit shady. They made some of these 330s and 331s, and they failed to follow the information with the National Board. Then you're allowed to use the following steps. Both the owner and registered inspector must verify and certify the cargo tank meets all ASME standards of Section 8, Division 1 of the ASME code at the time of the manufacture. So you'd have to have a publication from ASME code for the year that cargo tank was made. Copy all the information from the cargo tank ASME plate on the duplicate report. Then again, both the registered inspector and the cargo tank sign that certificate. So take a picture of the ASME plate. This is what we're talking about here. ASME has the code for the U after 2013. The letters go diagonally, ASME. And that's the certification. It was certified ASME coded on the manufacturer. So fill out the report like you did the other one, except this one won't. This is a 331, but ASME, the U18 doesn't know what a 331 is. That's why ASME is. It's just a high pressure tank, but it has to meet the requirements of the standards in effect in this one, 1980. Certificate of Emergency Discharge Control. The owner of a MC 330, 331, and if your state allows these non-spec under 3,500 gallon ASME tanks under 173.315K, tanks and liquefied compressed gas service must equip each cargo tank with emergency discharge control. For a cargo tank delivery truck with a capacity less than 3,500 gallons in metered delivery service, the cargo tank motor vehicle must be equipped with an off-truck wireless remote shutoff. There's going to be a little button push that the operator can shut off the engine and close all the internal valves by just pressing a button. For cargo tanks other than metered delivery service, your big transports over 3,500 gallons, the cargo tank motor vehicle must be equipped with a passive shutdown system that will stop the flow of product within 20 seconds in the event of a hose separation without any human intervention. For a cargo tank delivery truck with a capacity of more than 3,500 gallons in meter delivery service, this could be like if you guys have 3-axle meter delivery bobtails, those are well over 3,000 gallons. The tank must be equipped with, and here's your options, an off-truck remote shutoff, same as the small bobtails, or when the driver has an unobstructed view of the cargo tank when loading, you can use a query system. This is a system where the driver has a little button they keep pushing, and if they don't push it, the system will shut the truck down and close the door valve. Or they can have a passive shutdown system. They can have electronic system on there as well for these meter delivery over 3,500 gallons. But they have to have one of the three. Certificate of Emergency Discharge Control. Each motor carrier must maintain on file that certificate of emergency discharge control. This again for the liquefied compressed gas, 330, 331, or the non-spec tanks. Completed and signed by registered inspectors certifying that they installed this system according to the manufacturer's engineering specifications. Only a registered inspector with a CT number can install these on your trucks. If it wasn't installed by a registered inspector, you can take it to a shop who has a CT number of registered inspectors. They can get a copy of the manufacturer's instructions. They can verify it and check the whole system out, and they can then give you a certificate. But only a registered inspector can install these systems, except the smart hose. The smart hose comes already equipped with its own internal system. It doesn't need a registered inspector. That hose is certified at the time of manufacture. Just make sure you keep all the original paperwork to sell the hoses. This is your off-truck remote for your bobtail guys under 3,500 gallons. So you just have this little remote device here. It has a truck has an antenna on the back, but there's also hidden antennas in the back of the cab or in the headline of the cab. If the operator hits this button, it will shut off the engine and close the motor, shut off the motor power, and it will also close the liquid delivery internal valves. A lot of cases they close all the valves, but they're just required for liquid delivery. A smart way is to have it shut off every internal valve on this tank if there's an emergency situation, hose rupture. The registered inspector, when they install it, they have to give a certificate certifying that they installed it according to the manufacturer's requirements. They can operate at a distance of 150 feet. And this is this big because you guys want to have the drivers hit that button all the time, because I don't know how many times I've stopped these trucks and it doesn't work, open up, and the battery's all corroded because the driver hasn't checked it in 3 or 4 years. But the registered inspector signs this report, certifying the tank has identified the tank serial number, has a remote shutoff equipped according to the engineering requirement. For your transports, you can have this electronic system. You'll have an electronic system that has air operated. The air will, for the internal valve, you have your controls over the right side or somewhere in proximity, but it goes through this box and goes down to open internal valves. This sensor senses the line pressure of the discharge, the liquid discharge. And if it drops at a predetermined rate, similar to a hose separation, that air will actuate this device here and close the internal valves within 20 seconds with no human intervention. The registered inspector installs this, must also, again, prepare and complete. If you have a cargo tank with this type of passive shutdown and you don't have a certificate, same as the remote. Take it to a cargo tank facility and explain your situation, and hopefully you have the manual, how this system to be installed. But most things, they go online and get a copy of the manufacturer's installation instructions. They can verify that it was all installed right, and then they can provide you a certificate. But this has to be on the in file for every cargo tank. There's also, for your transports, a passive shutdown system, a smart type hose. There's a shoulder up here with a thing, but you look at the inside of it, you'll see the cable that goes the other side. There's a flipper on both ends of the cable or the hose, and if that hose separates, that will whip it, and the cable will pull tight, and both the flippers will close. The product coming out of the truck will be shut off, and the product going into the storage tank or the customer tank will be also shut down and stop the flow of product within 20 seconds. When you buy this smart type hose, it has the certification imprinted on it. Smart hose, there's several manufacturers, but keep this on file with that cargo tank manufacturer certificate compliant and UNAA report. And that's a certification. They built the hose and it meets the DOT requirements 173.315 M. New delivery hose. When you buy a liquid delivery hose, be it a 125-foot hose for bobtail or the big hose in a real transport, is liquid delivery only, not applicable to vapor hoses. The operator of these cargo tanks, you got the 330, 331, and 315K non-spec cargo tanks, you must maintain on file a document for the life of the delivery hose. This is required for a new hose or a repaired liquid delivery hose. If the end comes off and you got a company that says they can repair, put a new end on it, then they have to give another certificate that it was repaired and tested according to criteria 184. That paper has to have the signature of the inspector, name of the hose owner, unique identifier. Every liquid delivery hose 2000 has had to have a unique identification number. If you have an old hose that doesn't have one, you then are required, as the owner of the tank, to modify that. Put the last 4 numbers of the VIN number of that cargo tank on there and make a record, and that would be it. The date the hose was issued, assembled, and tested, or if the tank was repaired, the date and test, and inspection for repaired hoses. This is a hose that's got a copy on a Parker's, 125 hose that definitely goes on a bobtail, and here's the unique number they put on there. And right initially, the manufacturers were putting numbers on there that we showed them that since 2000, every hose has to have a unique number, and therefore they're putting on there. So keep this in file with each cargo tank. If this hose is on cargo tank 311, put on in 311 file. This company here just wrote this following year 26. Smart hose, it's going to have this same initial hose certificate that it was tested at 700 psi and has a unique number 1841993. Cargo tank test and inspection records. As a cargo tank owner, you must maintain on file the principal place of business the most current copy of each type of test and inspection for each cargo tank that you operate. These reports have to be maintained on file for the until the same type of test is done. Your annual external visual leakage tests. They're done annually. So we get the next one done. You can toss the old ones or put the old ones in archive. But as far as FMCSA, you only have to keep on file until you do the next steps and it's successfully completed and pass the test. The test dates on a cargo tank only show the month and the month and the 2-digit year that the test was performed with the abbreviations allowed by 184.15. External visual will have a letter V, and January 20 would be 1-20 and the V. Leakage tests required for all cargo tanks except the MC338 cryogenic tanks. They're not required leakage tests. The cargo tank will be marked with letter K. If you have all gasoline, you guys can use the EPA method 27 test and mark the tank KEPA 27. But if you hold diesel fuel and you hold gasoline, this is only allowed for gasoline. A petroleum diesel fuel with a rate vapor pressure greater than 4 psi. Diesel fuel doesn't have a rate vapor pressure greater than 4 psi. So if you hold gasoline and you hold diesel fuel in the same tank, you'd have a K, put a V in the middle, then KPA 27. This is a method 27 test where it's only 18 inches on a manometer, where this is 80% of the MAWP of the tank. So if you hold anything other than gasoline in this tank, you have to have a K and a KVA. I just suggest for the K, the V, the KPA 27 in one line. Some guys want to put multiple lines in it. Why cover the whole cargo tank? Just put them all in. These all have to be done annually, so put them there. Internal inspection required for all cargo tanks except an MC338. The cargo tank may be marked with letter I for this inspection. So 3-20 in I after it, March 20, the internal visual is done. Pressure test required for all cargo tanks. The tank can be abbreviated with the letter P for the pressure test. Also, part of your training, the cargo tank specialized training, all the drivers of these cargo tanks have to be able to identify what inspections are what and when they expire. They have to know that these both expire. If they're 2 of 20, which would be February 20, they expire the first day of the 13th month. The drivers have to know if it's 220 VK, that's 3/1/21, they can no longer fill the cargo tank. Same with the 5-year IMP. The drivers have to be made aware and trained on what these tests are and when they expire. They're part of your program. They're in the truck every day. We have some changes to pressure tanks for you guys that operate 331 cargo tanks made of SA6 steel in dedicated propane service with a capacity less than 3,500 gallons. You're allowed to do the pressure test and the internal inspection every 10 years instead of 5 years. Again, any SA612 metal truck is allowed to have that, but the capacity has to be under 3,500 gallons. There is a caveat, though, that this does not apply to leakage tests on a cargo tank that is wrapped or coated to cover the weld. So if you got under the bottom of it, you're in an area with a lot of corrosion, and you put a rhino lining on the bottom of your tank, covers the weld, the inspector can't see those welds, and therefore they'd have to do, because during the external visual, they couldn't see it, so now they have to do internal visual. Or if you do a full vinyl wrap on that tank, you can't see the welds. Remember, if you have paint, the paint's going to crack. It doesn't give. That vinyl will give, and you can't tell you have a crack until you have a serious problem or corrosion. So if you do a full wrap on it and the welds are covered in that cargo tank, you must do an internal visual inspection every year. PHMSA has put out 3 interpretations, 2 in 2015 and 1 in 2016, stating that the wraps cover the weld, the cargo tank has to have an internal visual every year instead of every 5 years or 10 years. As usually, cargo tanks made of SA202 and SA455 metals may also receive the 10-year pressure test and internal visual inspection if the cargo tank owner has the following document on file. The owner of these cargo tanks must have on file the Sharpie V-notch test results for that cargo tank. The serial number on this report must match the cargo tank serial number. In the last 17 years, I have never seen an SA202 or SA455 cargo tank where the owner of the cargo tank kept Sharpie test reports. Sharpie test reports look like this. When a cargo tank is being ordered, the manufacturer makes up a traveler and assigns a serial number on day 1 of this tank. So all the slabs of steel used to make this tank are identified, and the Sharpie V-notch test is done on every sheet of steel. And the serial number is on this report, the serial number of the PPV nozzle test must match your cargo tank, must match the serial number on your cargo tank. Lots of luck with that. I've never seen a 202 or 455 with one. 612s are exempt from it, so that's why they don't need it. Cargo tank repair records. Each cargo tank carrier must maintain a record on file for each welded cargo tank or a modification of the DOT specification cargo tank to operate. Repair records, by federal definition, is a weld that's struck to the tank, the shell, the sump, the trough, the dome link collar. Any of those parts retain product. Anything that retains product, if an arc is struck to it, you have to have a repair record. Big change came in 2018. If the cargo tank is found to have a welded repair to the shell head or any other product retention device after October 1st, 2003, and no record of repair is on file in your cargo tank folder, showing that a registered cargo tank facility with a current National Board R stamp performed the repair, then the cargo tank is now a non-specification cargo tank. How do we fix this? Once the undocumented weld is removed and re-welded by a registered CT facility that holds a current National Board R stamp, the cargo tank may be pressure tested and returned back to specification service. Make sure if you got welds on that cargo tank, there's any type of work done there, welds run across the side for a crack, you guys have a copy of repair record. Otherwise, the roadside guy or the inspector that does the investigation your facility can put that tank out of service for hazmat service. Get haul non-hazmat material, like a 306 tank or 406, and you don't have a repair record, the shop, you couldn't find it. Now we can go into non-spec service, such as for diesel fuel. Most diesel fuel has a flash point above 100 degrees, can be used to transport pure diesel, so you got to cover the specification design. And there would now be a non-spec tank, couldn't haul gasoline or any material requiring a spec tank until you get those repairs done. PHMSA's interpretation 18-0060 covers this really in depth. Top 10 cargo tank violations. Has material training, not having a training record at all, or the training is overdue, or part of the training you don't have the cargo tank specialized training. And again, that's part of the training. That's another violation. Security plan, no security plan at all. It's incomplete. You didn't do it. You didn't update it annually. That's or you do the training with it. That's the first part there. You have to have training in addition to the hazmat. You have to have security plan training. Identification numbers. Just be aware that the driver's got to be trained for this part of their training. That the ID numbers on your cargo tank must be 3.5 inches if they're on a placard. They can be taller. They can't be shorter. There's a lot of companies selling ID numbers, or guys go down to Home Depot or Lowe's or a hardware store and buy replaceable labels because they got a little worn off. They have to be 3.5 inches tall. Common. Shipping papers, incorrect or not on file. You guys can make a copy of the laminated cards, or the sequence is incorrect, or they didn't put how many cargo tanks, or no shipping paper at all. A big one is you run a transport and you haul every day and you go back to yard. What's the driver do? They turn in the shipping papers to the office. They had the load rack next morning. What don't they have? A copy of the shipping paper if they don't have a laminated card. That's an out of service violation until another shipping paper is prepared. Manufacturer certificate compliance or ASME data report missing. That's a big fine violation. Those are on file. Cargo tank test and inspection records missing or incomplete. You have to have a test record for every marking on that tank. You have the VK for the annual leakage and internal visual, and the IP for the 5-year pressure test and internal visual. If you have a marking on a tank, or you buy a tank that has all the markings are all clear on there, well, again, where can you buy those? The hardware. If you don't have a record to support that marking on tank, those tests are invalid. Incomplete. My suggestion is make sure that you guys, when you guys use a testing facility, make sure, check their credentials out, what's their experience, verify they're currently registered. Yeah, they may get a little irritated at you, but if they don't do it right, they don't do the complete inspection, do a pressure test, don't remove the pressure relief devices and bench test them or replace them on a record that they replaced them, that's an incomplete pressure test, and now you have to go back in for another pressure test. Use that testing facility as a registered with PHMSA. You have that right to ask, can I see your registration for your cargo tank facility? Your big ones are pretty reputable, but you have the right to ask for it. Filling a cargo tank after test date's expired. This goes back to make sure your drivers are all trained to know when every marking on that tank they operate expires. If they can contact someone in the company in case it gets overlooked in the records that, hey, this expires next month. Okay, but it's any time in that month. Again, your annual test expires the first day of the 13th month. Your 5-year expires the first day of the 61st month. Cargo tank test inspection reports improperly performed. They didn't test the tank at the right pressure. They missed an element of the test. Then that's a violation. You have that tank retested. Last one is welded repair records missing. Big violation. Make sure that look over your cargo tanks. If you have a weld to the tank, you don't have a record support yet, get it to the shop and get it corrected. That's all I've got. Thank you for your attendance during this year. Any questions on this presentation, click on my booth. And for my contact information, if you want further clarifications, anything I presented here, or any other questions. I want to thank Bill and Virtual Propane Express for this opportunity to share this information with you, and also all the other sponsors who contributed to this presentation.